Hi, my name is Scott Campbell. I'd like to take a little bit and talk to you about a plague that is globally hitting the world and taking out young people in numbers that are just mind-boggling to me. And I want to focus mostly on the United States, but it is a global epidemic. There is something we need to do to prevent the escalation of this plague and the amount of lives it's taking out, and I have found the answer. So if you are one that is addicted to drugs, if you know anyone addicted to drugs, I'd like to share my heart with you for a little bit. I graduated from high school in 1969. During that time, we were fighting a needless war called the Vietnam War. I came close to having to go into Vietnam, but during that time we had an upheaval in this country that I thought was the worst I'd ever seen in my life, and that was we had the drug phenomenon explode across this country. We had riots in our streets. We had our cities burning down from riots. It was a time of turmoil, racial upheaval, social anti-governmental movements. And sadly to say, I was caught up in the very fervor of that event. The drug culture was birthed in my generation. The rock and roll explosion that took place with the advent of groups like the Beatles and the Who and Pink Floyd and Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and all of those, and we became known as the Woodstock Nation. And drug use and free love, and it looked as if this generation and this country was about to fall apart at the seams. One of the magazines popular at that time had a front page cover that said The Generation Gap. The same magazine not a few months later came out with the magazine cover that said that God is dead. This nation was facing something they had never seen before, nor have they seen since, but it has escalated. My heart's broken over all of this as I've watched and worked with young people over the years that are caught up in this phenomenon. I'd like to share with you some of the saddest statistics and hopefully some of the most eye-opening statistics that you can know. Drug overdoses take out a lot of lives, from young people aged 13 on up to even those in my generation. The latest accurate figures that I could come up with, beyond those that were just mere estimates, came from 2005, so you can imagine what they might be today at 2009. But in 2005, there were 22,500 known deaths created by drug overdose of young people. In that same year, 2005, there were only 17,000 homicides that occurred across the United States. In fact, in 2005, drug overdose deaths were second only to vehicular accidents on highways. It outpaced heart failure deaths, cardiac arrest deaths, cancer, which really means about 2,200 or more of our young people died every month during the year 2005. In 2005, they estimated there were 13 million or more young people aged 13 on up that were addicted to some form of drug, whether it be an illicit drug like methamphetamine, heroin, cocaine, ice, all the different types of illicit drugs that are out there, as well as pharmaceutical drugs that were being prescribed, that were being black marketed, such as painkillers and antidepressants and such. A staggering statistic, 13 million plus known to be addicted. Of the 22,500 known deaths, they know that there were a lot more than that, but those were the only ones that they could validate. They know that there are many areas in this country where Deaths would occur in what were called drug houses or shoot-up dens where people would go in and inject their heroin or whatever drug they had and they would overdose, and their bodies would simply be dragged to the nearest dumpster, dumped in, found later, taken to a morgue, and put in a pauper's grave. So those drug overdose deaths aren't even recorded, and they know that there were countless thousands more that occurred that way. Back in my generation, the upheaval was so bad that there was a song written. As I said, we're called the Woodstock Nation. We had the National Guard out to fend off all the what were called hippies at that point. So this gray-haired man you see sitting in front of you didn't always have gray hair. I had hair long past my shoulders. I was part of what they called the hippie crowd. I was actively involved in what I saw was the deterioration of our country. And we all just got caught up in this amazing drug phenomenon, consuming LSD and peyote and every other form of drug that we could take, plus alcohol. There was even a song that was produced by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young called "For Dead" in Ohio, which was a song written about how our young people in that day protested, and 4 of them were shot by our own National Guard and killed at the University of Ohio State. So it was bad then, but it has gotten so out of hand. It's in epidemic proportions, and I'm tired of it, and I want to do something about it, and I want to get the message out that there is hope. In fact, there is only one answer to this solution, which I'll get into, but I want to go over a few more things with you. I want to tell you that right now they estimate that there are somewhere in the neighborhood of over 23 million young people aged 13 on up that are now addicted to some form of drug, whether it be an illicit drug or a pharmaceutical prescribed drug or a black marketed drug. Our young people can order drugs over the internet. The access to this phenomenon that's killing off our the leaders of our next generation. I mean, our future poets, our future teachers, our future politicians, our future church group leaders are dying left and right. There's probably an average of close to 3,000 or more dying every month from drug overdose. This has got to stop, and there is a way to stop it. Right now, they estimate that there was a 113% increase. That's a 113% increase in the experimental use of drugs among those in elementary school level. This plague is so massive. They've tried every solution under the book. They're currently trying to get rid of the cartels, to stop the drug flow. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to happen. The solution I found, I believe, is the only and final solution. I understand why people get addicted to drugs. I understand why they get addicted to pornography. I understand why they get addicted to alcohol. It's because our young people are losing hope. Hope for the future, hope for their lives. They come from broken families at an alarming rate. The divorce rate, which was over 50%, has now been matched even in the church realm. So we have a lot of young people that are they just have been raised by single families, single parents, and there's just no hope. They see our politicians do the things that they do, and it's increasingly getting harder for them to understand the confusions of life. They have no leaders. They have nobody to speak into their life that they are worth having around. I believe in our young people. I work with a lot of young people, and when I look at them, I don't see what's wrong. I see what's missing. They come to me and they have their piercings in their ears and their nose and their tongue, and they have their tattoos from their neck all the way down to the tips of their toes. I don't care. My generation expressed itself. Every generation before my generation and every generation since then